Everyone's building websites with AI right now on YouTube. 10K here, 10K there, it's easier than it's ever been. But no one's testing them or making sure that LLMs are actually recommending them to the public. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Claude Code to design, build, test, deploy, and rank your site for AI SEO so that you can separate yourself from all the AI slop out there. Let's get into it. And there we go, 5 prompts later, and we have a pretty good looking personal brand website that is completely tested using Playwright. So we didn't do any manual testing over here, and it is also AI SEO compliant so that we know large language models are going to be recommending us and our services to any people that might be asking about them. Alrighty, so before we get into the build, we're going to look at what we're going to be doing over here. So we have a 6-step process over here, most of which is going to be done by AI, thankfully. We just have to apply your brain for this thing to work out the way that we want it to. So first up, we have Firecrawl, and this does all of the research for us up front. We're going to get into the different ways of doing this research and why we would want to do it, but Firecrawl is going to be the way that we do it. Then we're going to put everything into Stitch. It's going to design our canvas for us. After we've done that, Claude is going to take care of the build and all of the other things. Then obviously we need some form of testing in here because unlike other channels that just YOLO their way through a landing page, we obviously want to make sure that our website works the way it needs to. So we're going to use Playwright for that, all programmatically, because you don't want to use MCP or any browser automation. That costs tokens unnecessarily. And then finally, as a part of this, we need to have some form of AI SEO, because if we have built this perfect website, but it doesn't get recommended to people from AI, what the hell is the point in building this really pretty website if no one's going to see it? So as part of this, we're also going to be looking at a skill that will help us achieve all of this. And then finally, we're going to deploy it down with using Vercel. So pretty straightforward. I'll get into more detail in every single one of the steps as we go through it. I also have deep dives in every single one of these videos if you want to check them in the description below. So first up, Firecrawl. We need to set this thing up, but to give you a little bit of context about why we want this, we want to do the research up front. And generally that's going to work differently for every single website that you build, depending on its type. So for instance, if somebody came to you wanting a personal brand, you might go find someone who has a really good personal brand out there. Justin Welsh's website's not something cinematic or to look up to, but his copy converts. He is one of the most successful people on LinkedIn, and he's a multimillionaire as a result of that. So if we're going to scrape some of his information, it would be useful to look at his site because this website converts people like crazy. So he must be doing something right, in which case we wanted structure, maybe some of the text on here, perhaps even the color theme to some degree, but we can obviously make it a lot better looking. But then if you wanted something a little bit more creative, you could come to this person's website where you can help creative, multi-passionate women turn their ideas into steady income. But you can see here, hers is a little bit more interactive. So one of your clients might want this type of thing. It's a little bit more playful, whatever. I'm sure this also converts really well. So the idea here is that we want to get samples up front, and we want to make sure that it's in the exact style that we actually want to achieve. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back to Firecrawl. I'm going to log in. I presume everyone knows how to sign up to a platform. Once you're in there, you're going to come on over to the dashboard, and you're going to grab your API key, or if you want to go direct with MCP, we can just copy this straight into VS Code, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Now, Firecrawl is paid for. It has a little bit of a free tier, so you'll be able to get a few scrapes, but it is also completely open source. So you can just download this, get Claude to set it up for you, and then you can add a few other things like CamuFox and things like that to mimic some of its anti-bot detection and a few other features that Firecrawl actually has. I have a video on that linked below. But for now, we're just going to copy this down here, and we're going to paste it into our Claude environment. So I've already done that, so I'm just going to mimic this for you, but I would just say, hey, put this in my mcp.json. There you go. Take my API key, which I now need to change because I've exposed it. I would hit enter, and this thing would go and set the MCP server up for us. Great, we now have Firecrawl functionality. Next up, we want to use Stitch as our design canvas, and when I say us, I mean AI, because I'm not going to touch this thing at all. All we need to do is give Claude the ability to interact with this. Based on some of the things that it scraped from Firecrawl, Firecrawl's also going to take a screenshot for us, so it's going to chuck that in here, and we'll be able to use it as a part of our design canvas. Once it's done that, I do have a human in the loop, so we'll jump across and see what it looks like for some of the output. For now though, we need to set up our API key same way we did for Firecrawl. So all you have to do is come on over to your profile over here, and you want to go to Stitch Settings. When you're in Stitch Settings, you're going to scroll down over here and just click Create New Key. This thing will spin and it will create you this key over here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this key, and again I'm going to go back into my Visual Code, and I'm just going to tell Claude to chuck this into my .env file, which is just a little file that lives inside my AI operating system down over here. So once Claude has stashed your API key, which is probably going to be in a .env file, it's just where you stash all of your API keys and such things, you're going to need to come on over to Stitch again, and you need to grab the MCP server configuration just like we did with the Firecrawl. So over down here where it says for more information on how to use the API, click on this API documentation button over here. then you'll see Stitch via MCP, and this is exactly what we want. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to find VS Code in this case. If you're using something else, you can just look at the options over here. For me, I'm just going to copy and paste this thing. So I take this little block, and again, VS Code, chat to AI, get it to set this thing up. I've already done that. You would just paste it in, hit enter, and ask it to insert your API key in over there that you have already stashed in this .env file. Once that's done, we now have functionality to use Stitch via MCP, which is exactly what we want Claude to do. Then next up, we have one more MCP server that we need to connect to, and that is Vercel. So if you come on over to Vercel's documentation, all I did was type in Vercel MCP. You can come in here and you'll see that it has it again for every single platform. So we again want to grab it for VS Code. So I'm going to come down here. You can see that they have a button that does it for you. So I'm just going to add this to VS Code. Mine's already connected, but I'll install it over here anyway. You can install it just into Claude Code. You can also install it through the Claude front end just by clicking a toggle. But for this, I'm just going to do it this way to show you how easy it is. I'm literally just following through everything. I've only given it read permissions, as you saw over there very briefly, but that's it. We're now connected to Vercel. We should be able to push all of our local deployments up to Vercel whenever we want to, which is just the finished website. But don't worry, we're going to get into that stuff in detail in just a little bit. Okay, then there is one final piece to this puzzle. We obviously need skills to go out there and do these particular tasks that we need, such as building the entire front end for us, doing any of the AI SEO work, and then obviously doing the Playwright testing as well. So we need to have these skills in our environment, and I've got deep dives into each of these, like I mentioned earlier. So I'm not going to go too much in detail to this, but we'll cover it obviously because we need some of the context for this video. So first up, what we need to do is we need to find a website that we actually like. I'm just going to go with Ali Abdal's. I think it'll be perfect for this test that I'm trying to do. And perhaps we'll add a little bit more animation or something like that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, come on back to my Claude session, and I'm going to say, okay, we're going to use this website as a test. I want you to scrape it with Firecrawl, grab all of the information that you need and the copy, and then we're going to walk through our process to build a beautiful looking website. So one of the reasons that you want to have Firecrawl is because this thing will be able to go out there and scrape the entire website. You don't just have to do a single page. This thing can do every single page as a part of that website. We pull out things like the copy, the colors, the typography, anything that it can grab, because that helps us understand what we're going to be using when this thing wants to go and develop for us. You can see here it's pulling out the branding data, the site structure, the copy and the tone. It's very friendly, casual, emoji forward, things like that. This is very important when we're trying to build, because again, if we want to mimic this very successful person, we want to try and get all the information up front so that we can build it into our website layer by layer. Next up, I want you to throw this into Stitch and design a canvas with me via MCP. Once we've done that, we can get into the build front end. So now all that I'm doing is I'm giving Stitch a little bit of a head start, saying that this is what I want to use as a base design, and then it's going to go around with its own AI, and it's going to hopefully design us a beautiful looking canvas that we can just give as a visual example for the AI. So if I come back to Stitch over here, you can see something is building in the background. That's just Claude working with it via MCP. Project created. Now let me set up the design system from Firecrawl data and generate the first screen. So while that thing is cooking in the background, we can come back here and just have a look at what Stitch is actually going to be doing. So the idea here is that we're taking our Firecrawl screenshot and we're dropping it into the canvas as a reference. Then we're using specific prompts around all of the research that we gathered to generate 3 to 4 variations using Gemini 3.1 Pro thinking mode. Then if I really wanted to, I could go in there and I could interact with the canvas myself. So this is where the human in the loop forms. I can go in there, ask for any refinements and things like that if I need to, but I'm probably not going to do that because I don't think I'm going to need to. Then as the second part of this is a very important distinction to make, is that we get our output of a design.md file over here, which is just our portable design system. So it's the bridge between Stitch and Claude Code, and it essentially has everything that we're going to need as a part of our website built into a markdown file, which is great for Claude to then go and read and build the system that we want. Because obviously we have another skill that integrates with this, and that's where we're going to be adding any animations or any cool things to the website based off of this original styling document that we're creating for it. The important thing that we're gathering here are the specifics, the color tokens, the brand colors, the component rules, every little thing that we're going to need for certain sections of our website to make it stand out. And then Claude is just going to put on the final coat of paint while it's building this to make it really animated and really polished. Okay, so this thing is convinced that it's done. So all we would need to do is click on this link. I've already done that. And then it tells us what we should see. And then also this is where it tells us it's our turn as the human to give it some judgment, make sure that everything is the way that we want it. So if we flip back to here, this is his actual website. If we go to Stitch, this is the design that it came up with. So you can see it's not perfect, but it did pull some of the blue correctly and the background shading, it got the emoji right. There's a few other things that could be different. The layout over here was a little bit different. And it also thinks that the website has this weird kind of yellow in, which I want to get rid of as well. So I'm just going to go back to Claude and I'm going to tell it that it didn't actually do it correctly, because if you look at his website, you'll see these also change color. So I want to see if we can factor that sort of thing in, but I do want to nudge it away from this vomit yellow to something that is a better color. It looks mostly good, but I think the layout is a little bit different in terms of those square blocks. Also, it seems to have built the color palette around a soft yellow, whereas the website actually has more of a coral orange from what I can see. Was that not pulled out of the scrape? Also, on those blocks that he has on his website, there are different colors between the blue, the yellow, the orange, and purple. Are you able to pick that up? So let's see if iterating is going to get us something better. I also see that it's using the scrape functionality. Maybe it would be better to use the crawl functionality and crawl the entire website and every single page. It might be better to use the crawl functionality inside Firecrawl instead of scraping a singular page. Oh, never mind. There we go. It did it. But that's just something to keep in mind. If it didn't do what you wanted to do, or the website has multiple pages, just make sure that Firecrawl is actually not just scraping, because that would be the one page. And if you use crawl, it's going to do the entire website, which is obviously everything included in there. So now it's updated the design system and it's going to regenerate the screen using MCP inside Stitch. Done. The updated screen has been generated with the corrected palette: vibrant blue, coral, gold, and purple. Color-coded cards. Each How Can I Help card has its own distinct colored left border. Okay, let's go and have a look at this thing. Okay, and we can see here it's done a much better job. So we've got the blue, we've got the coral, we've got the yellow, white. It didn't add the purple over here, but I'm not so concerned. I think it can figure that out. Then down here, you can see done a pretty good job. This isn't entirely terrible. It's just a concept to help the AI get some kind of visual reference. You could also just use a screenshot if you wanted to, but we're going to take this whole Stitch approach because I think it will give the AI better visual reference. So all I'm going to do now is flip back to Claude. Yes, that design looks great. So now let's run through the build front end skill layer by layer and build out the best looking website that we can. Okay, and for this skill specifically, we're going to be using something called the stage framework, which is literally just an acronym that I made up for this video so we can work through it layer by layer. But it's there for very strategic reasons, just like my Atlas framework for building web apps. It's probably one of the best ways to go about designing a website, specifically because it is doing it in this layered functionality, starting with the research that we've done. So that's what happens here in the scope phase. We're looking at the brand, the audience, the call to action, the aesthetic direction, and things like that. So we've already done that. Then next up is tokens. So this is where you design the system from all the presets that we uncovered during the research phase. So if we have a look at the skill down here, you'll see that we are loading specific markdown files from Stitch or whatever systems that we're using to find all of the colors, all of the typography and things like that. And we're stitching it together piece by piece. Then we get into the architect phase, and this is where we are defining the page structure and pretty much everything on how the website is going to work, from the different layers to the animations and things like that. It all gets decided in this phase over here. And the AI will work with you in order to achieve this. You might only want a single page, which has everything on one page. You might want different pages with an about section. Whatever it is that you want with your website, you can work with AI to achieve that in this phase down here. Then next up, you have gesture, and this is where you're going to design the animation and the choreography for the website while you're building with the AI. You can also YOLO your way through this. If you don't understand any of this, you can just clone one from a website that is really animated. Claude will do its best to try and mimic that. There are other tools you can use for that as well. That's out of scope for this video because I'm focusing specifically on how to build websites layer by layer. But over here, we also talk about all the animation rules and things like that. And again, we're taking this layered approach so that we know we get the functionality working from level 1. Then we go up and we add the polish on later on. And then finally, as a part of this, we are going to build the website and quality check it. This is separate to running the actual test using our Playwright skill, which we'll do afterwards. This just does some basic functionality testing and review of its own code before it outputs the final product. So you can see here, it's at the first phase for scope, and it's just feeding back all of the information that it's already found for us from the exploring that it's been doing and some of the designing that it's been doing with Stitch. So I'm just going to say yes to all of this because I know it works. It's exactly what I want. You would obviously read over this as you're going through it to make sure that it's using the correct references and that the mood is correct so that you're getting the exact design that you want up front. Then you can see here it's grabbed all of the different colors for our theme as part of the tokens phase, and it's telling us where it is going to be using them and for what purpose. So page background is going to be this color, cream sections and card backgrounds is going to be that color, so on and so forth. You can obviously go through this again just to make sure that it is exactly what you want. Then we get into the architect phase, and this is where it tells us about the page flow. So in this case, we have a landing page with a hero section, a warm greeting plus subscribe form plus portrait. Scroll down, you get credibility, silent trust via logos. Scroll down, how can I get help? 4 color-coded category cards. That's just like we saw on his website. Then it just describes the full navigation patterns and all of the things that we need inside our website, layer by layer, so that we can understand it. Here's an example of the color cards over here for us, and our about section, some popular videos that he talks about. And that's obviously very important for a personal brand or any website now, because it ties in with AI SEO, where you want to show the authority as a part of that, but then also just so that your audience can follow you, and obviously it attracts people to your personal brand in the first place. Then as part of the gesture phase, it's going to do the animation choreography. And this is where it's talking about the different forms of where it can put animation and what it's going to look like. You can see here it's chosen to use bounce for playful accents. This is a warm, friendly brand. Motion should feel inviting, not sharp. Gives a little bit of critique around what should be going where. And you can obviously bounce back and forth with the AI to figure out exactly what you want. The more examples that you feed AI, the better results you're going to get, because it's just a pattern matching machine. So always try and lead with examples where you can. You can feed more in during this phase if you want to. And at this point, I'm just going to tell this thing to go and do it. Okay, and this thing is done. So let's see what it output for this time round. So it's deployed everything locally for now. And I think this kind of looks okay. It's got the color theme right. It's obviously got all of the writing literally from the website. So you would not want to use that for yours, of course. You want to give it as much context up front as you can so it could build it into the website for you or for your clients, whatever it is that you're doing. Make sure that you get the copy right. The point with scraping from the website is not to steal their exact words, obviously. You want to just borrow the way that they write their website, because it's written in a way that's meant to lock the reader in and then ultimately get them to take an action, which might be selling or signing up to something, whatever it is. That's the whole point of copywriting. So we use this as a frame, but then replace it with the context from the business that you're building this for yourself. Anyway, it seems to have gotten a lot of the colors right. Got a little subscribe box over here. And I think this is where one of the problems is. So it got the colors all right. That's perfect. But they're invisible unless I hover over them. So we just need to speak to AI to get that clarified. But otherwise, it's left us places to put in our own photos, which is exactly what we would want. And then we would link this to our own YouTube channel so that we could have all of this playing over here. Easy enough to do. And then down here, we've got our call to action to subscribe to something, or you could have whatever else you wanted in here. So I think what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to get AI to fix this stuff up quickly. And I'm also going to get it to just build any random thing around me and also link it to my YouTube page so that when we get into the Playwright testing, we can actually make sure that all of this stuff works. Looks great. Just a few things that need to be fixed. One of them being the animation for the 4 colored boxes. They're invisible unless I hover over them. So we need to fix that. Okay, so we've told it that, and then I've also just given it my YouTube channel, my LinkedIn address, told it to remove the other social icons because I don't use other social media, and email for the contact form is just my company's hello inbox. So we're going to go and make those changes. Do one final sweep for anything else that might be incorrect, and let me know when it's finished. So it's going to run away and go and do that stuff. Hopefully it'll be enough just for this video. And then we're going to move on to testing this, where we're going to make sure that Playwright can browse through each section of our website, fill out the contact form, or do what we need to do with it as a part of this testing. So then just to get Playwright installed while that thing is finishing up our website, all you would do is come to playwright.dev. You would click on Get Started. This will give you a manual on how you can install it if you want to do it manually. Otherwise, I would just copy this in and I would get Claude to install it like we've been doing for all of the other stuff. So I'd open up a chat and I would say, hey, install Playwright for me. And it would install all the functionality that we need to run Playwright locally. Again, I don't want to use MCP here because we don't need to burn tokens for this kind of thing. We can do everything using programming language and then it doesn't need AI at all. The only time you want to use MCP is if the AI needs to make judgment or something like that. And when we're running end-to-end testing, we absolutely don't need that. We just need it to understand the tests that we want to run. And that's what this skill is going to do for us when we get round to the Playwright testing in just a few moments. Okay, and this thing's now rewritten the entire website to be kind of around me based off of some context and things that it could find out online. I teach people how to build AI systems and get paid for it. 12 years consulting for Fortune 500s across cyber and DevOps. Now running a solo consultancy and teaching everything I know on YouTube and inside my school community. Let's test if these buttons work. So we can join the community. Yep. We can watch on YouTube. All of my videos are down here. What happens if I click on this one? Cool, so that takes me to my YouTube channel. But after we have the hero section, obviously we would want to add a photo of me that's actually pretty creative over there, something that defines the personal brand. How can I help you? Build your own AI operating system, learn AI consulting, grow on YouTube and LinkedIn, and join weekly live builds. Summed that up pretty well just by giving it the about page of my school community. And then down here, it gives a little bit about who I am, what I did, and things like that. Again, you would want to have another photo of you over here for your personal brand. And then the community tells you what they're going to get inside the community, what they can learn, things like that. with a join button that ideally would take them to the About page, which it would, but I'm signed in with my profile. So obviously it would lead them here, which then has the VSL and where they can join now, just by clicking that little button on the right-hand side, guys. But I think for the most part, this is pretty good just for our POC that we're doing over here. So next up, we're going to get into testing, and I'm going to show you how to do this programmatically with Playwright. Okay, that's all looking good. Now we need to write a Playwright test for this using our Playwright skill. I want to make sure that everything is working as it should. So the skill is already written. Again, you can grab this for free in the description below. I have got a deep dive video into Playwright itself if you want to learn how to use it and why to use it and things like that. I definitely recommend watching that video. But the whole point here is that this thing is going to write Playwright test files for us, which just live in this little folder over here. And all they are is scripts. We're not using any AI tokens here, which is a very good way to do this. And it's also going to fix any failures in an automated loop. So any issues that it finds, it will go and fix them as a part of this. So we get that end-to-end testing for our website or web app as a part of this, and we don't burn tokens while we're doing that, which is very important. Now, I can do a ton of other things as well apart from testing, but particularly it's very good for websites and web apps because, as you'll soon see, it's going to pop up on the screen and run a whole bunch of tests for us. And while it's doing that, it exposes problems to us, both on the front end, but if we had a website, it would also expose back-end problems with our database, or if it couldn't store certain information, we'd be able to figure that out and then get another agent to go and fix the back-end. So testing is obviously massively important. You want to make sure that all of the social icons go to the correct places. Different nav bars on the website work the way they're supposed to, which is why I don't know why no one else on YouTube is talking about this as a part of their 10K website builds. Because if you're not teaching people that they need to test these things or understand the whole copywriting method, then what the hell's the point of posting a video? As you've seen the first 7 minutes of this video, AI can design us an entire website that's almost usable. If you start off with a better prompt up front, you're probably going to get something that's 90% usable. So it all comes down to your domain expertise and understanding the landscape. A web designer is not just to design a website anymore. You need to understand brand, you need to understand copywriting, various other things that go into this so that you're actually more useful to the business over some of this commoditized stuff where people can just use skills now like I'm doing in here. Okay, and you can see what it did here. It invoked the skill that we wanted, and then it literally just went away and wrote a bunch of tests for my website, ran them programmatically in the background. You can have it pop up on the screen like you'll see in my Playwright video, where we have this browser that pops up and it moves the mouse and clicks through each section of that. You don't need to do that for testing, obviously. We just want to make sure that everything works as it should. So over here, we have all 59 tests passed. One app bug was found. It went away and it fixed that as a part of this. We ended up with everything working, all green, ready for the next step whenever you are. So that gets most of the work done for you. I mean, obviously I wouldn't just trust this thing blindly and be like, here's your product. I would still test it manually as a human. The point is now with this added testing over here, we've added another layer of intelligence to help us get this testing done faster. If this thing says it's good, it probably is good. But again, go and check it yourself, click through the website, make sure every single part of what we've built works the way that it's supposed to build, so that if I click on here, I don't go somewhere completely random. And again, there's a lot more we can do with Playwright, but that's in the other video, not this one. Can you run the AI SEO skill and run as much of the checks as you can before we deploy live on Vercel? After we've deployed and we have a domain, we'll do the remaining tests. So this is now going to run through our AI SEO skill, which has been updated as of last week. We're in the end of March now. So I've gathered as much information as I could from the latest podcasts, from people who are pretty much building AI SEO products at the moment from Google and other such places, chucked them in Notebook LM, and I built out a skill specifically that tailors your business or your website around what you need to be doing to be recognized by a large language model, so that essentially this thing refers you. If they say, who's the best AI consultancy in New York, hopefully you would get referred by this AI agent. That's the dream goal over here, right? And that's how SEO has now changed from just writing blogs and making sure you stack keywords on your website and things. We now want to make sure that AI recommends us to people. And that's what this skill aims to get us done. So it runs through the entire website, some of which you will have to be on a domain for it to work, obviously. But it will understand the structure of your website, the way it's built, and a few other things that go into this so that we can get as close to 100% of a score as possible, and that AI actually recommends us to people. Again, I have deep dives in another video on that. So it's given us some pre-deployment audit results over here already, the content structure, the max points over here, and then the current. So right now we're around 12, so half of what the content structure should be for good AI SEO. Schema markup, we got 0. Crawler access, we got 0. So we have no robots.txt, no llms.txt, and no sitemap. Geez. Not sure how important this one really is, but we included it anyway as a part of the skill. Multi-platform, max 15, still pending, waiting on the perplexity check. So obviously this thing isn't live. Perplexity is not going to find a single thing, so some of these things will only be able to be done after we deploy. And I imagine it still then even wouldn't work because it's not like you change these things and all of a sudden you're the best agency or website on the planet. So it's just kind of hallucinating a little bit over here about the realism behind being detected. The point is for this video though, is I want to show you how easy it is to go and do this stuff while you're building this website. Because again, you can build this flashy website for someone, but you can make yourself even more valuable by saying, hey, I can build this thing for you and I can make sure that you get discovered properly. And as a benefit of doing this pre-deployment as much as we can, you can see it found out all of these scores. And then down here, it just fixed all of the stuff that it knew it could fix. So anything that was terrible beforehand, it went through, took the advice that it needed to based on the skill, and it went out and added whatever it needed to add or fixed what it needed to fix in order to bring our score up as much as possible. And then it tells us what still remains after we deploy this thing. Once we have a live Vercel URL, we'll run the full Firecrawl crawl to verify that HTTPS is working, robots.txt, LLMs.txt, and sitemapped are served correctly, real page speed metrics, and full rescore with Firecrawl and Perplexity. Again, I would be very surprised if Perplexity finds us, but we're going to see what this thing does anyway. Okay, cool. Deploy it to Vercel. So we've already connected Vercel via MCP, so this thing should now just be able to bundle everything up and deploy it into our Vercel environment. And here we go. It's pushed it to Vercel. Easy as that. Literally took like 3.5 minutes. This thing just went out there, deployed exactly what it built locally, gave me a URL to go and click and open it, and here it is. Now, obviously, we could have made this thing way better looking, and it doesn't look completely identical to Ali Abdaal. He's got a lot more little hand-drawn animation and things like that. We could definitely have refined to get to that point, but that's not the whole point of this video. There's enough stuff out there teaching you how to build a cinematic website. The point here is to understand how to think how you can increase your value when you're building websites and the different systems that you can link in order to just not be another web designer using templates out there. And we can see some of the AI SEO changes that it made. So having a frequently asked questions is one of the most important things because LLMs will use this thing in order to take out information when people ask specific questions like what is an AI operating system, and then it will be there. It's on this website, so people would potentially get referred by an LLM when they ask that particular question to this website or to me. Thankfully, with my name, I have got something unique going because there is no other Mansel Scheffel on this planet. So when people Google me, I generally come up first anyway. So I guess I've got that going for me, if nothing else. Now what we need to do is we need to run post-deploy Firecrawl verification. Let's run AI SEO again on this URL and see what we get this time. Okay, so we ran our AI SEO again, and obviously it's not going to find anything because this thing isn't a live domain and it hasn't been up long enough for Perplexity to actually go and do anything, let alone Firecrawl. But my brand is obviously there, like I said, Mansel Scheffel's already. No one else has that name, so anything I've ever done is pretty much online at this point. And then obviously, as mentioned on this third point over here, this is not going to just get magically picked up by AI immediately. That's not how it works at all. So we can't test this part over here. But we can check our score down here and see how it's improved. Obviously, you need to understand the concepts of AI SEO and things like that. That's why I have the deep dive video where we go into all of this stuff in depth. But just know that the closer we obviously get to max, the better it is for this website. And some of these things we wouldn't be able to test. But my goal next is to actually just refine this as much as possible. And I'm going to get it to look as much like Ali's website as I possibly can. And then I'll just post the end result once that's done. And there we go. 5 prompts later, and we have a pretty good looking personal brand website that is completely tested using Playwright. So we didn't do any manual testing over here. And it is also AI SEO compliant so that we know large language models are going to be recommending us and our services to any people that might be asking about them. And all you would have to do now is just push this back up to Vercel after we've made the changes. I mean, ideally you'd want to do all of this stuff before pushing initially, but I didn't realize that I was actually going to take it that far. And I think I actually did because it turned out quite good in the end. So I wanted to follow through with it. Anyway, we come back here and now all we have to do is say, push this new version to Vercel, and it's going to go and do what it did the first time and send it up to Vercel. And that's it. That is the entire process. It's easier than it's ever been. Your value is not going to be with merging all of these little tools together and getting Claude to do things for you. It's focusing on the outcome that the client needs, but then lending the expertise behind this, knowing how to stitch these moving parts together to make sure that these people actually get a return on the investment by giving you the time of day. And that's it. There are tons of other skills out there, even online, that you can get if you wanted to build 3D animated sites. I didn't really just want to regurgitate what other people have been posting on YouTube. I wanted to give you a different lens to look at how you can build these websites properly because it's part of that whole package. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, leave some comments down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, you can check out my community where we're building systems like this every single day. Otherwise, you can check out the videos on the screen now. They're definitely going to help you on your journey. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next one.